Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've just watched the final episode of Alien Earth, which is on Disney+. Now, I already made a video on the first half of the series covering episodes 1 to 4. So if you haven't already watched that, go and do so. I'll leave a link in the description. But now I'm going to go over episodes 5 to 8. So let's get into it. If you have already seen my previous video, you'll know this is not going to be a positive review. I did watch the second half of the series hoping it might got a little bit better, but unfortunately it just carried on getting a lot worse. Now, episode 5 was the most entertaining episode for me overall, and the alien is a much bigger part of the story. Now, one thing the series has done repeatedly is the set design. It's quite good actually. It does make it feel like the world of Alien most of the time. But when a series copies, like this episode 5, it copies the original Alien movie, but unfortunately doesn't do it nowhere near as good, doesn't really add anything interesting, and overall it just feels like when you have a cover band and you recognize what's going on, but it just doesn't do it nowhere near on the same level. But what brings this episode down for me just a little bit more, unfortunately, is it just has these really silly characters in it that don't really feel like they belong in this world. And the ones that are playing it straight really do make some daft decisions that make you scratch your head. You're not expected to care about any of the characters, but if I were to give this episode just a little bit of praise, at least the pacing was probably the best I'd seen so far. So on to episode 6, which I found a very boring episode. You have Nibs, who's acting kind of strange, and they decide to make the decision to wipe her memory, thus changing her personality completely. And then the only other thing that really happens in this episode is right at the very end, which is kind of typical for a lot of series. There's not really a lot of meat to the bone in the middle, and then at the end, they're just setting something up for like a cliffhanger to try and entice you back in the following week. And in this case, in the last 5-10 minutes, you have Toodles, I think I've said that right. He's feeding the animals in the cages. He decides to feed the fly creature. And he makes a really dumb decision about how he goes about that. And he gets himself trapped in there, and he falls victim to the fly creature. And then at the same time, Arthur's kind of tricked into getting face hugged. And that's really all that happens in this episode. Why is it that the alien takes a major back seat in his own series? I already said that when he's on screen, you don't feel any of the scares, and when he's off screen, you don't feel any of his presence lingering in the background. But when it gets to episode 7, any last remaining part of that fear of the alien is completely stripped away. This series decides to show, for what I probably believe is probably the first time I've ever seen this, a xenomorph in broad daylight. What? There's reasons they don't show it in the movies like this, and it's quite laughable, but it looks more than ever like a man in a costume. If their aim was to make the alien more neutered down, more friendly, then they accomplished that. But unfortunately, that's not what the alien is, and it's one of the most uninteresting characters in this series. And now let's talk about episode 8. Oh my god, this was bad. I mean, it fits in with the rest of the series. I think one of the worst crimes of this episode, other than continuing the bad writing and the neutered down alien and removing any sense of horror, is that rather than bring this 8-episode run to a conclusion, it decides to leave it on some sort of cliffhanger. Although it's not really a cliffhanger, because we'd already had the same result early on in this story, where the androids had already taken over. The only thing that's changed is we just now have all the characters in a giant cage, and we have her pet Xenos on standby. Now, if I might digress for a second, I think in the other episode where I talked about 1 to 4, I was saying about these callbacks to previous films that they like to sort of shoehorn in to say, hey, do you remember this? They do it again in this scene. This cage is really only there so they can, I guess Noah Hawley can again show his appreciation for Alien Resurrection. If you notice that when earlier on in the story you see the android, the cyborg, he's in there, and the shot is kind of filmed from above and it's looking down on him. If you look at that shot and then go back and watch Alien Resurrection, that's the exact same shot when Ripley was in there. So why do I bring that up? Because it tells me that the writer's main driving force is to show you moments that you liked in previous movies, rather than tell a coherent story or an interesting story. I believe I already asked the question is, who are you supposed to care about in this series? Is it Wendy? Because she's not very likable. Is it any of the other android characters? Again, the same thing. I really don't know who you're supposed to root for. And let's talk about Wendy for a second. Why does she have all these powers? Because as far as I'm aware, unless I wasn't paying attention, that could have been the case, because like I said, this thing has a major pacing issue. But my point is, why does she have these powers and none of the other children in the android bodies do? I can't think of a reason why she can communicate with the Xenos, why she's able to control the entire station just with the wave of her hand. If you do know this, the answer to that, do let me know in the comments below. But even if you do have the answer to that, this creates a really big problem. Normally when you follow a character, you know, you feel their emotion, you feel their journey, you're worried for them. How can you possibly worry about this character when she is the most powerful character in the entire series? She's got one up on the alien. She's already overpowered and killed one earlier on in the series. So there's no stakes. Also, why is this series so tonally off? You've got the kids in android bodies, but every time they do their little bit of behaving more like children, it's another thing that takes me out of it. And I know I'm getting quite ranty and I can't help it because I'm sorry, I really hate this series. I can't stand it. But the music is a very strange choice. Every episode ends with this strange piece of music that really takes you out of the entire series. Well, it did for me anyway. Is anyone else in agreement that this series should have been called Android Earth, not Alien Earth? Because the androids take front and center in the entire series. And the fact that we've not just got hybrids, but we've also got synthetics and we've also got cyborgs, it's overpopulated with them. And again, the alien literally just pops in like some background monster and that's it. In 8 hours of screen time across the entire series, what have we really learned? What kind of story is formulated? Every story should have a beginning, middle and end, and then we haven't had an ending. If you refer back to my previous video, I did say in it that why have we got more than one company or two companies? Like you've got Weyland-Yutani and now you've got Prodigy, but then you've got some other ones there as well, which is they spend the first, minute or two telling you these different companies. And I did say then that the only reason they're put in there is so that way this series has got a life somewhere to go beyond the first series. And it's borne out. I've been proven right because you haven't been introduced to any of those other companies. You'll get to know them in the series ahead. And that's all they're there for. They don't have any meaningful reason to be here, no story-based reason. So in conclusion, yes, this series is a total joke. It's daft, it's tonally off, it's poorly written, and it isn't even about the main villain. I'm giving Alien Earth 0 out of 5 stars. I can't understand how we've got a percentage of fans of the Alien films that actually like this. I mean, if you do like it, good for you. I'm actually glad you're satisfied. But for me, this series is not even a shell of what it was in the films. The films had monsters that made you scared and characters that you rooted for and really cared about. I can only pray that they don't make a second series of this and just decide to focus on the movies. I know we're getting another movie coming up and that's good, and I just hope that that's where they just concentrate their efforts, but I'll probably be wrong in that. Alien Romulus was actually really good. I really enjoyed that. I know it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but the only thing I could find fault, probably just the one line where they say, get away from her, you, the Ripley line. That's it. That's all I could think of. Everything else was great. It had the scares. It had an interesting story. I really enjoyed that one. So there we go. No surprise. I absolutely hated this series. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. Did you like this or did you not like it? If you're enjoying the channel, do press like and subscribe as it really does help us out. And of course, you can check out my other playlists, which include movie reviews, movie rankings, movie locations, movie attractions, and more content to come in the future. I want to thank you again for watching, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.